So now we can finally start writing our first pure neural network function, and that's going to be the forward propagation function. And in this program, the forward propagation is going to work like this. We're going to have a button, like one here and one here, and then when we press this button, we're going to forward propagate the values that we got here and put them into the next layer. So let's make this button. So we're gonna put another button here. We're gonna call this the forward prop L1 for layer 1 button. And it's gonna be a Q push button in the self window. And then we're gonna write this click thing here. And then we're going to have this function here called prop layer 1. And then we're going to have the initialization of this button down here, just as with the other one, so we can copy paste. And yeah, I'm going to have my pre-checked values here: 300, 570, 160. We're going to call this one F prop L1. And this is going to be called for prop L1 button. And then we also have to, or no, did I miss something? Yeah, we have to write this function. So we're going to put it right here. This function. Yeah, so we got our button. So before we go into the fprop function and how it works, I noticed that I missed writing the input label here, so I'll just do that real fast. So I go into the draw synapses and labels, and I'm just going to copy paste this pre-made update. So if you wanna copy this, you can just pause and do it. So forward propagation works like this. Say that we want to update the value here based from forward propagation. So we're going to take this value right here, and then we're going to multiply it by the value in here, the weight value in here, and then we're going to add this to this value right here, multiplied by the weight value right here. And that's it. So let's write the code for that. I'll collapse this one. Let's go into this function right here. So there's going to be some nested loops here because we are going to do this operation on 4 neurons, and each of these neurons is going to use 2 previous neurons outputs and weights. So let's start doing that. So this is the outer loop for this neuron, like the one in the layer we're updating. So we have this sum variable here that is going to be initialized to 0, and then we're going to run through the neurons in the previous layer. And there are 2 of them because we skipped the bias neuron for now. So then we make this local variable here called previous neuron, mnet get neuron. We take the index of that one, and then we're going to get the output from this neuron. mnet get output, and then we have to write a function here, which we haven't done yet. At least I don't think we have. No, we haven't. We need to have a get weight function that gets the weight from the network. And we're gonna write the function so that it takes a layer and then it takes two indexes, like the previous neuron and this neuron. But we'll comment this thing away, and for now we're just gonna try it so that it works with some random value. I don't know. We'll fix this soon. And then the sum is going to be incremented or increased by this output that we made times the weight. And then we're going to have this other local variable here called this neuron, and that is gotten from the layer we're actually updating and using the index. Just there are 4 of them, so we write 4 there, and then we're going to set the input of this neuron to this sum, and since the sum is going to come as a float value, I have to convert it to a string. But yeah, this stuff should also be done inside the loop here, of course. And then we're also going to do the other important thing here, which is the output of the neuron or the neuron we're updating is going to be is going to be updated by calling the transfer function, which we also haven't written yet, but we'll do that soon. And that's gonna take the sum in as a parameter, and since we haven't written that, we can comment it away for now and just like write some dummy value for now, so we can say that works. And then we're gonna set the output of this neuron with this new value that we have. So let's see what happens when we run this. So first let's load the inputs, and then we press this ForwardProp. So yeah, we can see that it does the calculation here, and then I don't know if it's right, but we'll check that soon. And then it just takes in this dummy variable here and puts it in. Let's now write the getWeight function, this one. So we're gonna put it in the net, like at the bottom here. And it's gonna take in a layer index, a neuron index 1 for the left one, neuron index 2 for the right one. So if a layer index is 0, then we're gonna return the synapse in the first layer, or what I call the first set of synapses. So then we're gonna take the indexes here, neuron index 1, neuron index 2, and we're gonna search for the attribute called weight, like this. And if this is not the case, we are going to return the same thing but from the other layer, because there are only 2 options here, like this. So let's see what happens. Does this make sense? Actually, we don't really know if this works now. We should try to set one of these weights to something else to see if it works. I can do that when I create the net here. So here, for example, I can set the attribute just like, so I'm gonna take a synapse, like I'll take the very first one in the first set of synapses, and I'm gonna change it to 0.5. And whoa, something is wrong, because I wanted to change this one, just this one, but it changed the ones for the whole thing here. And I'm definitely doing it outside the loop here, so something must be wrong in the update line edits. And yeah, it's over here. It's a horrible mistake. So yeah, I hope you see this so you can change it if you're copying this, or at least I think that's what it is. Yeah, no, it's it has, and then now you can see that it gets different values. So yeah, but we need to check this. I mean, we need to run several tests on it to see that it works properly. We're also going to write the transfer function, this one, and it's going to be super easy in this case. We're just gonna have put it here. So we're gonna have an input there. So that's gonna be the sum. And this is a so-called hyperbolic tan transfer function. There are several different ones, but in this example we're going to use the hyperbolic tan one. Now that we've successfully completed forward propagating from this layer to this layer, we can just copy paste what we've done here and do the same for the next forward propagation step. So I'll just start by creating another button, but I will change the button to 2, and here I will put it into 2, and then here I'm gonna have some new stuff here, so I'll just put 600 here, and otherwise it's going to be the same. And this has to be 2s here. And now we're going to write the for propagating layer 2 function. So I'll take the previous one and I'll copy it and I'll paste it. And we're not going to have 2 nested loops here because we're only going to do the forward propagating on this neuron here. I don't think we're gonna do the bias one at all, but if we do the bias one, we'll just put in a nested loop or something else later. So now we'll take away this nested thing here, and then we are going to have a previous neuron from layer 1, which is the previous layer, and here it's an I index. We get the output, and the weight is going to come from the first set of synapses, which I mean the second set of synapses, which has index 1, and here's the index going to be I, because yeah, there are 4 different synapses that have to be correct, or 4 neurons on the left side, and the neurons on the right side is just the first one in the last layer. And then we increase the sum, and then we will get neuron from layer 2 on position 0, and we will set the input of this neuron to the sum, and the output will run through this transfer function, and it will be updated. Hope this works now. I got stuck. I don't know what happened. Oh no. Okay, so load inputs for propagate layer 1, for propagate layer 2. Yeah, I'll check this later. So I realized that these 4 methods right here, they have nothing to do in the controller. They are all part of the net. They have no reference to the GUI, so we have no reason to have them in the controller. It's only the button, but we can just change self to mnet here, so that will work. So I'll just like cut these out and put them in the net instead. Put them at the bottom here. Oh shit! I don't know what just happened. Okay, and then you can see that all these mnet references are having problems. So we will replace all the mnet references with self, and you can do that pressing Control R in PyCharm. So I'll just replace all of these guys, and then we have a instance to the training data in the controller here. So we're not gonna use this one in here. We're just gonna cut it out and put it into the initialization of the net right here. And then we have to add the self to assign it to this object, the net object. And then we also have to import this training data. So we right now we import the training data to the controller. Oh no, here. So we can just put this one in here, and I guess like it would make more sense to have the training data in the controller, like the net and the training data would be totally separated. But yeah, I tried a bit with that, like sending it in as an instance here, but and you can do that as well. It doesn't really matter. Now I just have it in the net instead. And let's see, we also need to have math in here, so we're gonna put math into the net. Oh yeah, and then we also have to change these guys to net. So we put in the net instance right here instead of self. I'm gonna write self here. Now we're also gonna write the function that will get us the outputs from the training data. And right now we don't have that in our training data file. I'll open that. Now it's just loading the 2 inputs so that we get in these 2 values. So we're gonna actually change this a bit, because normally text files they have like 1 data per row, or it can have 2 rows as well, or any, but it feels like a text file like this would have 1 data point per row. So we'll put it in this form, and then we can start changing this to work with that. So we read the line, we're gonna get this list of things based on the split here. We split everything with a semicolon, but instead of getting just two items from this list, we're gonna get 3, and this will be index 4 because there's a word. This is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we get the 4th item, and that's pretty much it. I'm also going to change the name of this out here to expected, because otherwise there's a risk that it will be mixed up with the output in the network. This is the expected value that we want, or that we want to come as close to as possible. So that's this one here, and we will create a variable for that inside the network, like here. We'll initialize it to 0, and then from this expected we will be able to calculate the error, so that will be updated later. And now we can put this expected value here, and that will be the second. So as soon as we press the load input button, we will put this one into the queue line edit, or we will update this value. And actually I'm going to change the name of this to load inputs instead, because it doesn't make any sense to call it this other thing. And we will change the name here as well, so that doesn't destroy anything. And yeah, here we have already created queue line edit objects for these values, but I don't think we have set them to update. No, that would be weird. Okay, so we have to write the update call here. So we are updating the expected value in the window, and we don't know what type it is. We want to round it, and we are gonna get an attribute from the network. It's gonna be the expected attribute, and we are going to round it to 3 decimal places or digits or whatever it is, and then we're gonna do the same for the error. We will just write error here. Just gonna remove these brackets here. I noticed an error in the forward propagation function somewhere here, so I'll show how to fix that now. We can see that the values here have been loaded successfully, but there's an error in the net here in the forward prop 2. This sum should be outside of the loop, like this. That's done. Before we do the backprop function, let's just see if it works. And I'm also going to change the locations of these buttons a bit so they're in between the layers instead of like next to one of them, and that is done here. So I'll change this to 570, and this to 200, and this to 500. So backpropagation is what you do when you take this error here, which is generated when we forward propagated to get this output here and the expected value, and then we will update these weights here based on this error, and then the weights in the next layer. But we'll begin by putting in the buttons here that will do the back propagation layer by layer. To do that, we're gonna put in some buttons here. Can actually, I'll just copy paste this one. So we begin by doing a back prop layer 2 button. It's going to be a Q push button, and when it is clicked, we're going to connect it to a back prop function here that we haven't written yet. And we're also going to do this for layer 1. And we're also going to have a update weights button. Which is like what you do when you've finished with the calculations of the back prop. And then we're also going to initialize these buttons. I'm going to take all this from above here. So we're going to set the geometry to 200, 630, 160. And we're gonna set the text to B prop layer 2. Then we can copy paste this one. And so this one is gonna be for the other one. Can have this to 500 here, 630, and it's going to be layer 1 in this case. And then we're also going to have the update weights. Here it's going to be close to the left side, and it's going to be called update. Oh yeah, it's a button, not like this. And we're also gonna call it weights here. Another thing that we're gonna do before we start with the back prop is to change these weights into buttons, because we don't just need to display the weight values here. We also need to display something called the delta weights, which is like how much we're going to correct these weights. And like my friend said, that it's going to be so messy to display these weights like on every single synapse here. So we're going to have these make these into buttons instead, and then we're going to have a text box which displays the delta weights when we press these buttons. So let's do that. We can start by going into the draw line edits. So here it's very easy. We can go to here and just like write Q push button instead of line edit. And then there are two places where we do this. We need to do this for the first set, and then we need to do the same for the second set here. And then we also have to do this change in the update line edits, because you cannot write Q line edits as text here anymore. You have to write Q push button set text, then it will work. And the same down here somewhere. And then we're also going to change the name of these, because right now they're not just updating line edits, they're also updating buttons, so why don't just put that in. I'm gonna do that using Control R. So update line edits is gonna become and buttons. So and then we're also gonna do that for the initialize function. So Control R, initialize, and buttons. We're also going to change the name of these so-called layer weights here into something that makes more sense. We're going to call them synapse buttons. From layer 0 to layer 1. Change all of those. And then we're going to do the same for these ones. Layer 1, layer 2. Place all. And then also quickly we're going to change these into synapses instead, because that makes more sense. I'm now going to create the QLine edit that's going to display the values when we print the button, and it's going to be called a delta print box. And it's a QLine edit in the self object. And then we're gonna set the geometry of it, like where we set the geometry for all the other ones. So like I'll go to the bottom of this one here. Set geometry, and we're gonna make it, put it in the right upper corner. And then we have to connect all the buttons, because now we have a lot of buttons, and we are going to connect them to all these buttons need to be connected to the text box that we make. So we're gonna do that here somewhere. I'll move this one below these ones, it makes more sense. And then down here we're gonna write a few loops that are gonna connect all the buttons to functions. 0, 2, so that we're gonna have some nested loops here. So we're gonna have a button that we collect from the synapse buttons. It's gonna be with the index ij. What is gonna happen when we click this button? We'll decide that now. And then we're gonna have this. We're gonna send in a parameter into a function. We need to use this lambda syntax. We're gonna write this function called delta print that's gonna print into the text box, and we're gonna send in a parameter or the indexes of the button, and then we're gonna have a similar for loop for the other set from 0 to 4. Actually, I can copy paste this, makes more sense. So here we're gonna use k and 0, 1 and 2. It's gonna be the the number 1 layer and k here. And then we have to write this delta print function, and I'll put it at the bottom of the other functions, like here. Delta print. And this one, yeah, it's taking in a layer index, a neural index on the left and a neural index on the right. So yeah, similar to how, like we did before. Like if the layer index is equal to 0, then we're gonna calculate the delta weight like this, or I mean, we're gonna get it like this. Net delta weight. And now we can set the text in the delta print box. We don't know what type it is, we're gonna round it. Delta weight 3 decimal places. And if this is not true, then we are gonna set the text in the other set. I mean, set the text from the other set. I think that should be it. I'm just gonna check that this variable is right. It has to be a float, not none, for it to work. And here it should be 0 instead of j. We're also gonna switch places between these two, so that this one is 200 and this one is 500, so that the buttons are in the right order, because we're first backpropagating layer 2, and I think that's also here. So it makes more sense to do the backprop layer 2 before you do backprop layer 1. I think the names can be a bit confusing here, so I'm gonna change them a bit. And in PyCharm you can change them in all the documents at once if you press Ctrl-Shift-R. I guess most software has this option, and then you get into this menu. You can't see the whole one. I think there's a find button at the bottom here. So we're gonna change ForwardProp prop L1 to be ForwardProp L0 L1, so that we understand that it goes from 0 to 1. And then we're gonna press this one, replace in all, or wait, all files. And then we're gonna do the same thing for ForwardProp L2, and that's gonna be from 1 to 2 here. And backprop L2, that means that we're gonna go from layer 2 to layer 1. And L1 means that we're gonna go from layer 1 to layer 0. I'm gonna add a number of new things now that are gonna be needed for the backpropagation. So one thing is going to be delta V, and then there's going to be something called delta gradient. I'll write a shorter version of that. And then we're going to have another button, which is going to be called calculate mean squared error and delta gradient button. It's going to be a Q push button. And when this button is pressed, we're going to connect it to a function which is going to be called calculate MSE and delta grad. Yeah, in the net we're going to call this one this. And then we're gonna draw some things. Here we can do some updates, like we can first of all take away this one. I don't think we're gonna use this one. I thought we would use this one for something, but yeah, maybe we'll do it later. And then we are gonna add some stuff here, like draw text. We're gonna add the delta. We're gonna add the MC. And we're gonna add the delta gradient. And then we also need to initialize this MC button. Gonna set the geometry of it to 700, 570, 160. And then we are gonna set its text to delta. We're also going to set the geometry of these new things we made here. Delta grad. Yeah, also we're gonna increase the font size of this print box because it's gonna be hard to see otherwise. Set font size, font. I don't know if this is gonna work. Let's see. Yeah, it increased the size. So I'm now going to change a number of things that are needed for the backpropagation. So I'm going to put in another Q-line edit here called delta view in the viewer. And we're going to have something called delta gradient. We're also going to have a button here called calculate MSC and delta gradient button. Q push button. And when we press this button, we are going to connect it to a method that we haven't written yet in the network. Calculate. Yeah, actually I cheated. I can take it away so that's easier to follow. Calculate MSC and delta gradient. Then we're gonna do some initialization of this. Here we can begin by taking away the sum. I don't think we're gonna need it. I thought we were gonna need this, but it looks like we don't. And here we're gonna have some more ones. So we're gonna do the delta here. We're gonna have the MSC and we're gonna have the delta grad. And then we are going to set the geometry of the button that we just made. And we are going to add a text to it as well. So this here is going to be calc, MSC, and the delta stuff. Then we're also going to set the geometry of the Q-line edits that we made. So they're going to be down here. Set the geometry of this one to 2, 6, 5, 20. There has been something wrong here. I think it's the naming again. Yeah, I'm gonna have an underline so that it's the same as everywhere. Delta gradient V. Set the geometry. And we're also gonna do this thing that I had it here. I can just use this one. So I thought the font was a bit small in the text box, so I just wrote it. And then we're gonna go into the update one here and put in the new updates for the Q-line edits. So there's gonna be 2 new ones, and there's gonna be the delta V, and there's gonna be the delta gradient. L2, we're gonna create this variable. I don't think we have it yet, but I write L2 here because it's specific for layer 2, so that it's not confusing. And here we're gonna create a variable called delta. And then here as well we're gonna do a change, like it's nice to see what is actually printed here. So I'm just gonna add in this, and then we have to do this as well. And yeah, I noticed that we still use lowercase l here, and it's kind of bad. I don't think I'm gonna dare to change with the 2 letters or one, but I'm gonna change these ones. So I'm gonna do a Control-Shift-R on these ones. So what I'm gonna do is L0 L1 is gonna become L0 L1. Yeah, and here actually you should select a directory. I don't really care, so I'm gonna do all projects. And the same thing for the other one. We also have to create this function to make this work. This one. And yeah, I also noticed that this will not work for some reason. It's not updating the right thing, so we're gonna change this using an import which is called partial. And it's another way of yeah, sending in a parameters into a function when you click a button. And we're also gonna take away this redundant variable here. It's no point in having it. So when we click this button, it's gonna connect, and here we're gonna write partial, and then we connect it to this print. And now we can start entering our parameters. And we do the same thing below. K0. So now I'm gonna put in these variables that are being called from the controller. That's gonna be the delta and the delta gradient. We'll initialize these to 0 like with all the other ones. Let's see if it works. There's one queue line edit missing, and then there's this mess here. So let's see what happened here. So we can go down in the controller here and take a look. So yeah, the error is wrong here. And then there was this mix up. I can actually write this out. There's no reason for abbreviation here. Actually, this one is the one that's redundant. Okay. Now let's see. Yeah. So this variable here is actually the mean squared error, and that's what we're going to calculate in this function right here. So I'm going to change it to be called mean squared error instead. And when I made this variable, I just didn't know that it was going to be mean squared error, so that's why I call it that. So this is how it should be changed. And now I started using this directory that my project is in. So yeah, I can do that. That's probably better than doing all projects. I don't even know what that means. So now that they're all changed, and also here there's a problem because it's going to search for something called error here, and it didn't update to MSC, so you have to change it to this.